Hello, I'm Dr. Barb Tremlett, and I welcome you to the Compassionate Listening series. This is the actual class 101. I just want to remind you that these are the views of Dr. Barb Tremlett and not necessarily medical advice. This presentation will be about 60 minutes, and that I'm a doctor of metaphysical counseling and sciences. I deal, therefore, everything is based in the language of energy, frequency, and vibration. So when I'm speaking with someone, I want to make sure that they understand that our language is all the same, but we call it different things. And we'll cover that actually in this class today. So when you're at the end of this series, we'll get together and we'll look over all the questions that we're asking in the comment sections after each class. And we'll go over the process of answering the Q&As before we do our final completion of the certificate. So don't get nervous, make notes if you want, watch the video over and over again until you feel really complete about it in the end. And depending on how fast you want to take this series, you can get through the series quickly. But I'm excited about this. I thank you for your time and your interest, and I'm ready to begin the presentation. So let me do my share screen here. Get us started in this process. And as you can tell, the ones who know me well, I'm getting better at this. So I want to understand the understanding beliefs, languages, and sorry, mosquitoes are already here today, so I'm going to make sure we get rid of those because I won't be able to concentrate if they're biting me on my legs. So understanding beliefs, languages, and dimensions. This is, to me, the most important program of what I'm teaching, and I might eventually be able to add more to this particular category. But for right now, it's the powerfulness of the impact you need as a beginner to make sure that we have you in a state of being understand, like, first of all, what this is good for you, and then how you are good for the experiencer of the situation. So we want to look at the differences. And I love this guy. Oh, and this is number 101 of the series. So I love this guy, Mr. Bean. He's coming up on the slide now. So when you look at Mr. Bean, you say, you ask him a question and he'll be like, I don't know. What are you talking about? And I think it's hysterical because sometimes when we're talking to other human beings, we're talking at one level and they're talking at another level. It's you have no communication, and not because there's not caring and not because there's not love. It's just because we are not speaking the same language. So to have clear communication, we have to know who we are talking to and the general directions we can go in, and we need to know the topics to stay away from. I'm sure we've all been in situations before where somebody gets angry at you or throws accusations, I don't want to talk about that. So we want to be careful not to get to a sensitive spot with someone when we're there really just to help them feel validated. And so this process will help a lot. So who are you talking with? These are good questions. When you're speaking to someone, how do you really know them? And do you know what the words are that will comfort them? Do you know the words that are shouldn't be used because they're going to trigger them, make them sad or angry, or even challenge you? And you really don't know what those things are until you're into the conversation, you get to know this person. And even some of the people you know deeply may also have some reactions sometimes to your words. So you don't really know what's going on. So what we want to do is we want to share some information. You can observe them. You can listen to their stories. You can watch their body language, their nonverbal cues, and their topics of conversation. You can listen to what they're saying and kind of get a clue for where they're coming. But in the beginning, we need to understand we only see the surface view of who they are. We only see what they allow us to see. If someone were to see me in public, the view that they have on the surface of who I am is apparently very different than the depth of who I am. I've been seen as a ditzy blonde. I've been seen as non-caring, non-compassionate, very selfish, closed down. I've been seen in all these different ways. And some things are even more derogatory because of my friendliness. Sometimes I'm seen as something that I'm not. So people only see what's on the outside, what is observable. They see your behaviors and practices, and depending on where they come from in their cultural beliefs, everything, they see you differently. So if you're looking at someone and you're seeing their surface of what they're showing you, what are those inside things? What are those depths that are down there that you're not seeing on the surface? We're not seeing how they were raised. We're not seeing what cultures they came from. We're not understanding maybe the demographics. If they grew up in Africa, it's going to be very different than if it were an island. So we don't know those differences in their raised, the way they've been raised. We don't know if they're a part of the addictive mainstream media, if they've been brainwashed by that, or if they've broken free from that matrix and they're beginning to see the bigger pictures of life. We don't know about their education. Are they educated back in the 60s and 70s? They're hippies, make love, not war. Or are they in the woke generation right now that have been brainwashed through the educational system, or over-sexualized, or being taught they're multiple genders? Like, where are they at? We don't know. We don't know. So the religious beliefs, some people are very powerful in their religious beliefs, and if you say anything against their religious beliefs, they shut you down. So we don't know that about them until we begin to ask these questions or get them to talk. What are their values? What are their belief systems? What are their attitudes through life in general? Are they a person that believes that life is sacred, or do they believe that abortion's okay? And none of this is about judgment. This is about just understanding what is under that big surface that we don't see, hear, feel, or know. And we won't know any of this until we scratch the surface and we start to go below. So, are they a person like most of us that are in debt slavery and trying to figure out like what happened in this world, and they're trying to get out of it? Maybe money is such a big thing for them that they judge everything they can say, do, or experience because of the dollar. So we want to be looking at, yes, we're going to look at the service as we start, but we want to be open to looking at the cultural differences underneath and what we don't see. And when we're looking into this concept of it, I mean, we look at their religion, their ethnicity, their language that they speak, the thinking styles. Are they analytic? Are they more emotional? Their perspectives of life in general. You should do this. We need to do that. Their experiences they've had. Maybe they've been through abuse and abandonment, and it's going to give me a very different adult than if someone who's raised in a really beautiful household. As one of my clients said the other day, I have no complaints about my life. I have no complaints. From childhood all the way through, I have no complaints. She's going to be a very different person to deal with than somebody who's been through a lot. Maybe their nationality needs to be taken into consideration, the skill sets that they have, their age, their sexual orientation, their culture, race, job levels, perspectives, their gender, their physical abilities to get around. Are they physically impaired in any way? So there's so many things to take into consideration when we're talking to somebody about what we don't know about them and what we might need to be sensitive to, or kind of stand back and ask big questions until we can get a feel of where they're coming from. One of the things that I talk about, and I think is hugely important, and I didn't even realize how important this was when I became a counselor. Everybody has a language that they speak from. Now, the easy ones for us are to say the language that we speak from, meaning our mouth and our comprehension. But in language and categories, I'm talking even deeper. So if you're talking to someone that speaks French, and you know what, you can speak French, Papamento, English, Spanish. There's all these different languages. So if you speak that language, that's great. But if you don't, there's a strain, correct? So then I want to take another look at some people may not believe in the version of energy, the scientific energy version. Like they may not understand quantum physics. They may not understand that language, but refusing to believe in the word or the name doesn't change it. So I use the word God a lot. Some people don't like the word God. Okay, well, then I can use the word universal light. I can change the word over. So what you want to do is you want to find their word. And once you find their word, their language, then you want to speak from that language. So if I'm going to speak to somebody in a God language, I'm going to speak very differently than I'm going to speak to somebody who doesn't believe in God and is a quantum physics kind of person. I'm going to speak through science. So we want to understand where their languages come from. So some people may not believe in the scientific version of energy, but they also refuse to use the word God, and others may not be able to believe all that comes with the word God or from God because of religious, understandings or education and stuff like that. Because even that's a whole influential thing that's frustrating. But they may, but there may be other words or descriptions that are acceptable, because we're talking about energy. This is all energy. You get to call it what you want to call it. If the word God shuts you down in some way, then let's call it light, or we'll call it quantum physics. We'll call it metaphysics. We'll call then the name you call it is not the defining factor of what it is. It is what it is. So we want to find the right word or descriptions that are acceptable to this person. So that's not our first trigger. Because if our first trigger is talking through the wrong language, then it's going to be difficult to keep that conversation up. We are not here to argue or pull apart the name of the energy that serves us. We're here to be a part of it. But we want to accept that it's here. We need to understand it's here, and we want to participate in the growing of it. We want to understand the power of taking that language and then making it more powerful, so they have something to hold on to, something to help them grow in this language. So you can call it any name you want, but it's an amazing life force. And we want to just be able to find their language. So some people want to speak in the religious language. Some want to speak in like the metaphysics or the science language. Some are agnostic. They don't want to hear it. Some people will say that's all bull and none of it's true. Some of them, people will be analytic. Prove it to me. Give me the science equation that things are there. And I would not call it its own language, but I will in its own way. Some people only want to talk through the law of attraction, which it's whatever turns you on. That's not the important part. What you want to call it, that's not the important part. The important part is we understand how all this works. It all boils down to one thing. Energy is everything, and everything is made of energy. That's the key thing to understand here, so we don't get caught up in the semantics of language. Vibration, frequency, waves, particles, it's all energy. There's no beginning, there's no end. It cannot be destroyed. But, and here's the beauty of this, it can be transmuted. We can take it from one vibrational shifting that's not working and not serving in low vibration, and we can transmute it into something higher and something higher and something higher until we can raise that vibration up to make it more reasonable, to take us out of victimhood and accept that, wow, this is a miraculous life, and then get to the level where we understand we're magical creators. So there's this lifting and this understanding that we can transmute this energy that's everywhere. So no matter what you call it, we just need to be able to understand that it's there and accept it. But it, no matter what, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. It's there. It's there. So let's use it. Let's find it. Let's make it something that changes our life. So the name we choose to call that surrounding energy and again provides us comfort and our source of understanding. And because remember, we got to go back, all have cultures, everything's different. We need to understand, if we're raised very differently, we might not be able to handle that word. So some of us do call this energy source, the innate, God, the white light, the sacred wisdom, spirit, Buddha, Lord, Holy Spirit, Sananda, that's a very good one, Yeshua, higher self, universe, love, inner self. Inner self is good too, because we are a soul and we're inside of ourself, inside this body. The light, Father, Teo, Most High, Almighty. There's so many names. And this exercise is just to assist you in understanding that what we believe in, our existence of this energy, we may have many, many names, but this energy connects all of us. So everything's made of energy and we are all connected. And this is key to being a compassionate listener. Because when we reduce somebody else's pain, we reduce our pain of the world, and we reduce our own pain. So our goal is to always be where we can be respectful of other people's beliefs, and that we can walk together on this expanding journey, because we are all one. And we're not saying anybody's right or wrong, but let's learn from this energy and be able to share it in this way. So again, we have all the differences about us, but let's talk about how this happened. How come we can be so different? We understand the demographics. If you're raised in China versus Canada, you're going to have some different nuances just from the general cultural things that you go through. But let's talk a little more specific about this. So an individual is born into this environment. Most of us are picked up and loved and hugged from the moment we're born. So we have this loving energy about us. So with that loving energy, we trust because of the loving energy. So as we're growing up in this family environment or this unit, we start to create attitudes, beliefs, emotions, and behaviors. We begin to create that inside this box of family environment that we're in. Now, those family members, none of us are perfect. So some of those family members may have discrimination in some way. They may have prejudices, biases, or misinformation, non-truths, because most of us have been somehow affected by or raised in an environment that has some, shall we say, some dark magic that's been put in it, some matrix involved. There's been some negative environments that we've been raised in, and we don't even realize we're being raised in it. We've been, like the intense slaveries that we've been put in through for finances. So we're being raised in this beautiful, loving environment that means the best for us. And unfortunately, stuff happens. So when we're raised in this bias in a group and family, that becomes who we are. That becomes us. That becomes our characteristics. So then you go to this and you expand. Okay, now it's time for you to go to school. Well, when you get into school, you're going to find people have different beliefs. People are going to treat you differently, talk to you differently, look at you differently because you're different. So now you're going to be bonding more into this school system, learning more about their ethics, their morals, how they treat each other, and that's going to influence you. As you go through this and you become more in your own personality, not that you're moving away from the core of your family, because remember, 0 to 7 is the most basic level of your body and your mind and your spirit becoming who you are. Those are your core basics of life. But when you go from into the school, you gather this information, maybe there's behavioral issues that you're having to deal with, and the peer pressure you're having to deal with. So after you get through that one, now you're going to go to, okay, what do I want to do in life? Do I want to become a plumber? Do I want to go to school and be a teacher? So now you're going into that, picking a profession, you're picking a job. So now as you step into that environment, you've got a whole nother bag of standards, of practices, the codes of conduct, the ethics, the biases, the psychology of working in that environment. You're going to be working and treated very differently as a plumber than you're going to be as a lawyer, or very differently if you're bagging groceries at a grocery store versus working at a printing company. The environments are very different. So you're going to be hopefully treated with respect, but the environments will be different. You'll be treated differently, rate of speed of work, and maybe the way you're treated. But when you get into the next level, which is organizational, now you got your profession. Now you're going to step into an organization. Now, when you go into an organization that pretty much rules your life at this point, they're going to be teaching you about their cultural programming, their cultural structures, their practices, their policies. And that section right there, sometimes when you go into profession, but right when you get into organization, that it can be life-changing adjustment. That's not always easy. And for me, going from my understanding of who I am, what I want to create in the world, and going to a Fortune 500 company and getting totally blown away with some of the things that they were teaching, but then going to a Fortune 50 company where they challenged my moral beliefs, the truthfulness. And because I don't play in the gray area, I was challenged. And so that organizational thing, okay, you have to know who you are by the time you hit that. If not, you will be in the group of blackmail, bribery, and brainwashing. You're going to be dancing there. So we need to know who we are. We need to know. So this is how people develop their belief systems. And so then we even step higher out. We say, what is society all about? Our society right now is filled with so many negative tunnels and funnels of bad information, and who is ruling us and who's telling us how to believe and what to eat, and then the taintingness of all the food and water and everything. So there's so much out there for society. Our realities are challenged on a daily basis. Our culture is challenged on a daily basis. There are so many people that have biases because of their history. So by the time you get out there, it's huge, right? It's huge. So we need to understand this innocent baby that was born in the middle of this beautiful family dynamic and learn the attitudes and beliefs from there. And some of them are harsh from the very beginning. But as they go out and then they start to say, I'm going to go to school now and meet other people, I'm going to go into college, or I'm going to go into the workforce, and I'm going to learn these techniques. And then they're going to go to heavily loaded organizations or corporations. And then they're going to have to learn about their morals and ethics. And then what's going on with society. That is a lot to handle. That's a lot. So no wonder we all think, feel, live differently, because we have so many things affecting each one of us. So we want to take that into mind when we're listening to somebody who's an experiencer of something violent or something, some loss, and they need someone to talk to. We have no idea where they're coming from, truly. We only know what they show us on the surface. So a group of people's characteristics and patterns of behavior define their culture. Language, arts, and customs are the basic categories we use to characterize culture. So the culture on St. Martin is very different than the culture in Washington, D.C., and very different than the culture in different parts of Japan. Very different. Culture on either side is much more than just what I described. It teaches us how to think, communicate with others, and perceive our surroundings. This is your cultural perspective. So my cultural perspective and yours are different, but we still have to be open and willing and respectful of each other. This is a huge piece of understanding this as a compassionate listener. Now, the next slide, if you think your brain is hurting now, the next slide is really important in that we need to understand the dimension. Okay, so now we've been talking about, we talked about the beliefs, and I know how to name that, how to name them in the language. So right now we're going to talk about the levels of awakening in dimension. This beautiful infographic came from Holistic Patriot. I highly encourage people to go to that website. They've got a lot of interesting things. But in the stages of awakening, and remember, none of this is blaming, none of this is judging. This is stating information, so it's easy for you to understand the differences in the different groups. So when we're looking at 3D people, we're looking at people that have been brainwashed. They're usually fear-based. They're woke but unawake. They're living sadly in cognitive dissonance. And we'll cover that a little bit more as we go through this process. They are mainstream media people, and there's possibly an addiction. They wake up in the morning, they turn on the TV, they leave it all day long in the background and listen to it. That's called an addiction. So sometimes that's all they can talk about is what they heard on the TV. And usually they're listening to the same stations all day long too. They're able to judge others, but do not want to hear others' truths. That's your 3D people. That's your 3D box. And in the 4D box, we're looking generally at conversations, and they're beginning to open up. They're beginning to ask questions. They realize there's a loss of freedom. They're beginning to say, hey, what's going on here? They're beginning to understand that there's blackmail, there's bribery. They're beginning to understand that brainwashing has probably been going on. They're beginning to understand, to understand. And just as a quick caveat, I was pulled over recently by a police officer, and he was challenging me. I didn't have my seatbelt on right. So I said, I had my seatbelt on here, and my seatbelt's supposed to be all the way across. Do you understand me? And I said, no. Because in the language of understanding means I stand under what you're telling me. You are correct and I am wrong. And I said no. Because I understand that their rules are this, this, and this. So I said no. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he stopped questioning me because he knew the game I was going to play with him. So when you're in the 4D, you're beginning to allow to understand that you understand. The comprehension is inside, not out here, because there's a lot of trickery going out here, and they try to take words and twist them. So you have to be really careful sometimes when you're talking to people. But when you're in the 4D, now you're allowing those mental challenges. I can tell you my mental challenges were when I found out that 9/11 was created and taken care of and performed by the CIA. I was really frustrated with that. When I found it out, my brain was just unbelievable. When I found out the space shuttle really did not blow up, that just because that changed my whole life. That incident changed my whole life. So I was really challenged by that. But sometimes you have to allow yourself to be mentally challenged. You have to do that in order to get out of that brainwashing, and they let that bubble pop and say, well, if they lied about that, what else did they lie about? You need to question your reality. You need to question, is that true or is that not true? And when the brainwashing is wearing off and you have the end of cognitive dissonance, now you're realizing I need to stop talking in that language where I shut people down, and I need to open my ears and listen. Not everything is true, but instead of listening to other people and saying, oh, they said it, so it's true, I need to make some decisions on what I'm going to take into my life. So that's where the 4D, we're awakening. That's what we're in the process of right now. That's why we're teaching this program. We want you to be in the stage of awakening. And as you're awakening, be able to help other people that are awakening. So this is huge. And then when you get to the 5D, it's a beautiful place here. I mean, I'm still in the 4D, don't get me wrong. I'm in the higher level of 4D, but the teachings, the awakening, the awareness, life is juicy. The energy is juicy. You begin to have less pain in your mental, your physical, and your spiritual, because when you're bringing in this energy, you're understanding how to use this energy in your life, whatever you call that energy, your body begins to be less tense. You begin to be happier. You begin to have more movement. You begin to understand that you have created, you increased creation and manifestation. I'm able to create things pretty quickly, and I'm pretty happy with that. You have increased empathic and prophecy. You begin to know things and you don't know how you know, but the energy of knowingness is in you. You begin to feel the truth coming out. You have more balance and peace and intuition. It is just all this energy just goes together, because now instead of being on a 3D level or 4D level, you're on more of a higher level. So the vibration you're holding, the vibration you're staying in, does a whole different job on you. And so when you're looking at the acceptance of what if, I can tell you one thing. I don't know what I don't know, but I'm constantly saying, but what if? How can that feed me? How can that help me? And then also the recognition that you're part of the 144,000 that they've talked about in creating this new world. So we'll talk a little bit more about the woke, characteristics of woke. So when you're in the woke stage, you're brainwashed, you have these blinders on, and you're unable to see beyond the conditioning that you've been given. You're always you're looking at everything as it's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. I can't change it, which is called victim mentality, which we really want to get out of that victim mentality. We live in a cognitive dissonance that's by accepting the status quo. Well, they said so I have to do it. You like put those blinders on and just do what you're told. You prefer to stay within their comfort zone and safe within a box rather than stepping outside the box, because outside the box, there's challenge, and some people don't want to be challenged. A lot of people that are woke also exhibit forms of Stockholm syndrome. And you can look that up, do a little research for yourself. But Stockholm syndrome is basically when you've been captured by something and you become so comfortable in that capturing that you begin to defend the system, or you begin to defend the people holding you captive. And we want, that's where woke people are existing. And if you think about it, you probably know people like that. They're unable to think for themselves, nor do they even question the reality. Well, I was told to do it, so I have to do it. They make the rules. And their reaction to the truth usually causes them pain. Once they start understanding something, it hurts, like they don't want to play. Their reaction to the truth causes them pain so much sometimes that they take the anger out on the person that's telling them the truth. And that's where we lose a lot of our relationships. Paradigm of justified motions keeps them in the comfort zone. So they justify why they have to stay where they're at. Well, it's always been this way. And if I don't do this, I'm going to get in trouble. So they feel it's easier just to stay where they're at. And they follow directions blindly, just as they're told. They have a tendency to repeat patterns and being unimaginative. These are the people that get up in the morning, eat their breakfast, go to work, do what they're supposed to do, go home, sit back in front of the TV, have their dinner, go to bed, get up in the morning and start all over again. They are starting to lose their excitement and their passion for life. And then we have the other side, of course, that just goes and gets drunk and stays in the addictive patterning. So it's easier to stay in the matrix. They're religiously usually and following mainstream media, which unfortunately that's part of the brainwashing. The victim blaming, man, this person, no matter what happens to them, it's somebody else's fault. Oh, he did this to me, and that's why this happened. The victim blaming is usually very big in this group. They have to be ready to be open to possibilities. They're never ready to listen to possibilities because they feel like where they're at is where they're supposed to stay. They rarely become entrepreneurs or get outside the box when they're woke. They refer to the hidden truth as conspiracies. I can tell you, one of my statements that I make a lot with people is I am not a conspiracy theorist. And when I say these words is I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I research a lot. So I could say I'm a conspiracy researcher, but I'm past that. Now I'm a conspiracy analyst because I'm analyzing everything and putting it together. People that are in the woke stage, they don't feel good about analyzing anything. They just stay and they call everything a conspiracy because it's just easier to call it a name and not deal with it. And they think they are right, meaning they're wrong, strong, and unable to listen. I'm right. That's the way it is. Shut up. Don't want to hear your opinion. They get stuck in the loops of drama, guilt, blame, and shame. And we see this with a lot of people. So if you look at like every time I turn around, there's something else, happening to the same person. That's because they're in this loop of negativity and lower vibration. And with the repetitive negative syndrome, they're just going to stay there. They get stuck in the loops. And unfortunately, when you try to help them get out of the loop, sometimes they'll try to bring you in with them. They're numb and unaware of their true health or their true self. And their main goal is just to be happy. I know you keep telling me this stuff, but I just want to be happy. I don't want to hear it. Don't talk to me about it. I just want to stay happy. And that's how they stay in their woke stage. So we want to be able to understand that's a whole group of people. That's at least 30% of the world or more, maybe 50% of the world. They're woke. So poking these people is not beneficial because they need to be waking up in a softer, gentler way. But when you're in the awakening stages of a person, which is about 30% of the people that are alive right now, this could be a little and more, but they start questioning their reality. Their questions is, where is my place in the world? They question, what's going on? Who's doing this? They begin to realize that, well, what's real and what's not real. Like, oh, I thought that, but I'm realizing that's not real, especially the 9/11 thing. That really woke a lot of people. They understand the law of attraction. They understand that we are here to create. This is where they start to begin creating, and they like, I want to make a better place in the world. I want to open a wellness facility. I want to teach yoga. They begin to waken up to what other things are going on out there. They're understanding how to use the law of attraction and how to create. They're understanding that the more self-sovereign they are, the happier they become, which adds to this vibration of energy that surrounds them. They have more reaction to self rather than others. They begin to realize that there's a lot of drama out there and they don't have to take on others' drama or actions. They can say, okay, I'm hearing your words, but I'm not taking on your feelings. And we teach a little sector on fact versus feeling, and not to take on other people's energy because you're a sovereign being. You want to keep your vibration high, and you can't do that if you're listening to other people's sad stories all the time or their drama. And we understand that learning can be scary, but willing to accept the new truths. There's a lot out there, folks, a lot out there. I've gone through the last 4 years of sometimes getting so low and getting depressed and then bringing myself back up because I don't want the uncomfortableness of understanding the truth to keep me from understanding the truth. So it gets a little scary sometimes to be able to do this. Rather than victim blaming, we take the steps towards solving the issues and improving ourselves. We begin to see the matrix for what it truly is and the depth for what it is. And it's intense and it's gross and it's mean and it's nasty, but it's still the truth of what we've been going through. So we need to not say, oh, I don't like that, so I'm not going to understand it. We need to step into, how did this happen? Because if we don't figure out how it happened, how to stop it, how are we going to get out of this matrix, and how are we going to stop it from happening again if we do get it to stop? Like we need to participate in this. We're not a victim here. Oh, so as we begin to see the truth for what it is, the questions of reality by asking, why am I going through this? What part am I playing? And we see the misfortune, opportunity of growth. Like, what am I supposed to learn here? What am I being called to do? We begin to say, like, questioning that reality of ourselves and saying, I'm supposed to be doing something else. And then when we're awake, we're beginning to understand all these things. We understand our soul works and our callings. We understand that everything is energy and we are one. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. We focus on spirituality and self-actualization. And we have a knowing that we're an infinite being in a temporary human body. So I know I'm a spiritual soul living in this human body during my education and existence here on this island we call Earth. And we live knowing that there are possibilities of infinite souls and spiritual lives and energy forces. We understand there's this big amoeba of energy that we are a part of. We live by divine inspiration. When somebody forces me to doing something, I have a really bad reaction to that because I need to be inspired. I need to feel it's the right thing for me because I live through this infinite energy moving through me. And if it's not moving through me and I'm stopping it, I feel it immediately and I don't want to play. We know that all the perspectives that exist under the law of free will. So there will be bad people that'll make bad decisions, but we have no control over that. We have to practice unconditional loving for all. That's part of our goal. And we need to be unattached, meaning the compassion without taking another suffrage. And there's a whole class on sympathy, empathy, and compassion that's related to the series that everybody has to take in order to understand this piece. We understand soul contracts, creator, source, universe. We recognize all the broken systems of politics, medical, education, religion. We recognize the big vastness of all of this. And we're seeing and hearing and feeling and understanding the big picture. And we're not taking other people's word for it anymore. We're getting out there and we're doing our own research. We're looking for it ourselves. That's why a lot of the truthers that are out there, they'll say, this is all my information, but don't believe me. Go do the research yourself because you need to understand it from your point of view and from your nuance. You don't follow any one person as a guru. You don't follow anyone. I mean, I have some great people I love listening to, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Ester Hicks. I mean, the Pam Gregory. Like, I love so many different people and I follow them to get nuances information, but I always would never stick with one person. I go do my information. I do my research to say what feels right to me. So we need to make sure that we're doing that for ourselves. We need to be a part of this ascension. We are a part. We are each a part of the ascension. So we need to step up. We understand that holding hands for those waking up by teaching and answering their questions is part of our calling. We need to hold the hand of the person that's trying to come up. It's like, I believe the saying, give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he will fish for a lifetime, or he'll eat for a lifetime. And that's what we're doing right now. We're teaching people to fish, to go find your research, to understand it, and have a knowingness so deep inside of you. You'll never say, oh, I believe that because so-and-so told me. That's not what this is. You need to have an inner standing of this information. So we focus on the light, we focus on love, we release negativities and fears. We focus on the transformation of the inner darkness into the light and the true sovereignty for each one of us. We possess a deep sense of magic and living a wholesome life. Once you start doing the awakening and your vibrations coming up, you don't do the things that a lot of people do. You don't do the self-degradation. You respect your body. You respect your morals. You respect your ethics. You want to live in a body and a soul that's beautiful and pure and amazingly fun. And this is a piece of the awakening. This is the yin and yang of its session, because we know there's always the dark and the light. And we know in the middle of the darkness, we have that light of the white hats, the Earth Alliance, the Galactic Federation of Light. Depending on how far a rabbit hole you want to go down or your understanding, it's up to you to choose how far you want to go with some of those topics. But in the middle of all this darkness that's been going on for lots and lots and lots and lots of years, that white light has been growing and growing and growing. So when we look at the growth of the white light, which is the white part of the yin yang, and then you see that darkness is never going to be able to go away, but it needs to be encapsulated as much as possible so we can shrink it, so that this balance of the white light is much higher. So again, this is another infographic from Holistic Patriot. Feel free to go there, spend some time looking at it, or you can freeze this frame and look at it from that direction. So we want to understand that when we're in the state of helping others, we don't have infinite time. We have a very short spans of time that we can spend with people. Most of us don't have a lot of quality time to give away at this point. So if I'm going to spend quality time with someone, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all these pieces. So I'm safe, I have boundaries, my time frame, I stick to my time frame. So I want to make sure all these things are true and good. But people we do not want to spend quality time with unless we are prepared, protected, and have boundaries are narcissists. Now, that topic is growing. The number of narcissist percentages seems to be growing. I don't know if it's growing so much as or being uncovered, because we're acknowledging that it's an issue. But it's important to understand a narcissist. So most compassionate listeners, which is what we're training for, we're empaths. We feel the vibration. We feel the other person's feelings. Coaches in general, they're empath. They have empathy. They have an understanding, and they want to help the kids to make a better life, or the players to make a better life. But narcissists feed off of empathic people. They loosh. They eat your energy. That high vibration is what they feed off of. So they want to feed off of that. So we need to understand the differences. So a compassionate listener is a person with a natural ability to apprehend an emotional state. Their apprehension of the emotional state is very good, and they understand someone who feels. They are sensitive to emotions and the caring of others. They typically are caring and giving more to others than themselves. So when you got someone who's overly giving like that because they want to help the world be a better place, and then you have a narcissist feeding off of that, and a narcissist is a person who exhibits a sense of grandioso, vanity, entitlement, someone who is selfish, self-serving, and having an insatiable need for approval, admiration, or heroic status, typically with the inability to accept criticism, fault, or blame. A narcissist can go from arrogant to playing victim in a second. And so we need to watch for the signs of narcissism, because we are empaths. We want to help the world. We want to help everybody have a better life. Sometimes there are not people out there there are not nice people out there that might want to take advantage of you. So we want to understand this specific person, or this specific type of person. So I just give this up as a little warning. And then we can go into this. Eventually there will be a class just on narcissism. But for right now, just know that's a whole set of people. And we need to make sure we have our boundaries up when we're working with them. That's not to say that we don't work with them. We can work with them. They're an experiencer. They're hurting. They're in pain. They need to have the validation. But we need to be aware that that particular person might go too far. So we just want to watch out for them. And there are signs on narcissism. And again, we'll go through narcissism and its special presentation all by itself. But one thing that we're wanting to get this whole understanding is we are all different. We're all very different, but we are all one. Everything is made of vibration. We are all just filled with vibration, frequency, wave, particle. We have it all, but we're all connected. We are a giant hologram. We are connected. We are not separate. And yes, some energies are a little tougher than others. Some are more light and beautiful than others, but we're still one. So if I'm helping you make the world a better place and in healing, I'm also healing myself. If I'm listening to you as someone who's experienced a harshness, and I'm helping relieve that pain for you so you can let go of your negative vibrations and sadness, and your energy rises, then my energy rises, because we are all one. So we're here to help each other in this giant flow of energy. So love is a language. Love is a language. And I want you to feel this energy. So yes, hola, hello, bonjour. We can say them in other physical language like French, English, and Spanish, but love is a vibration. Love is a very clear vibration. And when we can get that love vibration up there, the way we say hello can show love. The way we smile, we can show love. We can show it through our eyes, the way we look at somebody, that caring feeling, that open posture, listening patiently to someone. We can also have the sense of gratitude and peacefulness. We feel trust. That is a feeling of love. That vibration, when we're with someone, raises their vibration, because remember, anybody you're sitting next to, your vibrations, your auras, your energy fields, your biofields, they affect each other. So if I'm walking around with a giant love fest in my aura, a lot of people are going to be attracted to that. And somebody who's sad and needs to be heard is going to feel that vibration coming into them as they sit close to me. That love language is hugely important. So one of the things we need to understand too is that when we're listening to them and they're pouring their heart out to us, they're telling us about these things that happen and how they feel. We want to make sure that we are showing interest in them. So we want to make sure we're having this high vibration of love language. We want to make sure that we're making them feel heard and not closing them down. So we want to be careful that we're not using closed body language, that we're not making any cues and statements like, well, you shouldn't have tried it that way. Next time you need to do this. That is not our job. That would be a counselor, or that would be their parent. We're not that. We're a compassionate listener. We don't give them confusing faces. I know sometimes when I'm teaching and I get a little like my eyeball when someone's asking me something, I'll be like, make a face, but we don't want to give them confusing language. We don't give facial language. We don't want our face to look like, what the heck? No, we want to stay open. We want to have a love language on our face and our body that says we're open, we're compassionate, we're listening to you, because we want them to get the energy out and get that vibration out of them so they can raise in vibration. So if we're fidgeting, if we're looking at our phone, if we're trying to twisting around, looking and not paying attention to them, they're not going to feel heard. So we want to be careful that we're not doing any of those body languages or those facial languages or those words that are making them want to shut down. Our goal is to get them to get as much of this vibration out and let them talk about it, let them feel validated in their hearing and their feeling. We want them to feel so strong and powerful that they've been able to empty it, that when they're done, I feel much better. Because they're venting, they're getting it out. They need to release the energy so they don't keep it in the body and go into the negative syndrome. So I hope that these things have been helpful in understanding, because the clear communication is just amazing. And so when we're looking at this clear communication, the cultural beliefs, language, heritage, values, we look at all those things because we're really only seeing the surface. But then if we're looking at their body language, we're looking at the way they react to things, we're learning their love language, we're learning who they are, it makes it so much easier to speak with someone. So we want this piece to be all about understanding there's huge differences in us, in our language, our dimensions, our beliefs, and we just want to be respectful of where they're coming from. All right. And again, this is just 101 in the series. So we've got, 9 more to go to help you with other parts. This is about open listening. This is about your body language. This is about recognizing the stages of awareness. It's about respecting the culture, beliefs, language, heritage, values, and all those things that are so different than where we are. So I hope you enjoyed this program. Again, this is Understanding Beliefs, Languages, Dimensions. This is class 101. And so please join us for more teachings on energy psychology, energy medicine, metaphysics, and the science of spirituality. And as I say every time at the end of every class, folks, it is your energy. It's your life, and you're not a victim. And when you step into the powerfulness of what that means, you're going to have a very different kind of life. And feel free to go ahead and see this program over and over again as we get the full series released. Then we'll do the Q&As after. Please leave messages in the bottom so I can look through and answer the questions and be ready for the Q&A for you. At the end of the series of the 10 classes, we will go through questions and answers, because you do need to be participating in what you understood during this program to get the certification. If you're doing these classes individually, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do any kind of certification. And these programs are open for all ages above 14. This is all safe information for all ages. I thank you for your time and your energy, and I really appreciate the fact that you are wanting and desiring to become a compassionate listener. This world needs you. This world needs all of us. I thank you for all your time, your energy, and please understand that love is the highest vibration, and the more you can hold that, the more you can be that, the more you can live that, the more you change the world just by your thoughts and your energy. So namaste. Thank you. Peace be with you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next program.